Not coming through loud enough. Okay. It was open? Yeah, it was open until last closed. Here we go. We're on page Reish Tzadik. And the other day we spoke about that you have to know that there's a part of you, your etzim neshama, which nothing can damage. I told you once that this young man asked the Lubavitcher Rebbe, he said, if Hashem wanted me to be religious, then why was I born into a family that is not practicing anything at all? Good question, right? So the Rebbe said to him that what you need to know is that your starting point in life is not the family that you were born into. Your starting point in life is before your neshama came into this world. Like he says at the very opening of the Tanya, Mashbi'in oisoi tehi tzadik val tehi rasha. Right, Tanya says Perigimul Denide that the neshama is administered an oath to be a tzaddik and not to be a rasha. And that oath is given to every neshama. That's the starting point. Why were you born into this kind of a family, or why was somebody else born into a different kind of a family? That's Hashem's business. But your starting point is not that, oh, I was born into a family that's not observant and therefore I don't have to be, or therefore whatever it is, right? Because we were learning about Tinnik Shenishba yesterday, right? And so on. So if somebody was raised as a Tinnik Shenishba, so that's Hashem's calculation that they're Tinnik Shenishba, you know. But the essence neshama is never damaged, never affected in a negative way. It's on the layers, right? The nefesh habahamis, the nefesh sichlis, and so on. That gets messed up. Okay. So the thing to remember is, and this is the work that the Frierdiker Rebbe was doing, and it's Thursday night is going to be Yud Beis Tammuz, big day in Lubavitch, right? It's the day that the Frierdiker Rebbe was released from prison. Miraculously, he survived. They nearly killed him. They definitely crippled him. and okay, so the Rebbe was talking yesterday about that if you focus on the negative, you're not only going to have you're not going to influence the person in a positive way, and on the contrary, you're going to make it even harder for them to do their tshuva. The way to bring somebody back to their essence is encourage them to do a mitzvah. Encourage them to do a mitzvah, and that's why the Rebbe Shita was, go out there and put on tefillin with people, get the women to light Shabbos candles, encourage them to do a mitzvah. That's what gives them chizuk. So we're on page Reish Tzadik. Did you get in touch with her, or she didn't answer?
My message.
Yeah.
She hasn't answered.
So, ein shoklin ela b'dato shel kel deyot. Shoklin means to weigh. You don't weigh the value of what a person is doing other than according to the Da'at, according to the consciousness of Hashem, who knows everything. So, in other words, to us, to people on the right? Remember a couple of years ago we learned a mimer from Reb Shlomo about Mashiach eyes, right? Remember that? And with superficial eyes, you see superficially, and you don't know. It could be that for one yid that he put on tefillin once in his life could have been a far greater avodas Hashem than I did in 15, 20 years, right? I was looking at a teaching from Reb Shlomo yesterday that relates to this. It says, it's in the Sefer called Omek Halev. He says like this. He's explaining a teaching from Nachman. Reb Nachman says, Al yidei hasicha shemesichim beino lebein kono, through the personal conversations that you have with your master, with Hashem, umotzi haritzonot v'kisufim shelo, and you express your deepest desires and the things that you mamish yearn for. Al yidei zeh motzi hanefashot tovot min hakoach el hapoal. That's how you get to manifest your inner soul dimensions. You bring them from potential into action. You actualize them. Every yid has a very precious point. Therefore, so then everybody. That's why everybody has to have their hitbodedut, their personal conversations with Hashem, in order to that this special point in your being starts to illuminate. In other words, let's say we're having a conversation, right? You and I, and we're sort of, you're telling me what you desire, etc., etc. So you might a few things and so on, but if you're having a personal conversation with Hashem, right, and you're speaking to God, and you're telling God what you want, right? Well, try it sometimes. And but if you do it and you're conscious that you're speaking to the Rebbeinu Shalom, you're not going to get away with talking superficially for too long, right? You're talking to God, and if you really believe that Hashem is listening to what you're saying, right? You're gonna go deeper and deeper, and the deeper you go within yourself, the closer you are to finding your Nikudat Tova. The real status? Want me to shut it up?
No, it's fine.
So see, you're no?
Because when I undo the top button, it opens up too much. So I put it in.
Sneeze!
No.
Good. Okay.
Doesn't one do this on the Shemona Esrei?
That's definitely true. You're supposed to be doing that in Shemona Esrei also. But Reb Nachman's teaching us, and his vote of this is to have these personal conversations in your mother tongue, in the language that you normally speak, in your own words, like you're talking to your best friend in the world.
So I may not know what I want. I don't know what is the right thing to do.
Right.
I want to do what's right.
Right.
I want to do what's right.
So when you don't know that, so then you say, Hashem, I don't know. Sometimes when a person does what they do, they might say to the Rebbeinu Shalom is, I would like to talk to you, but I don't feel like talking to you. That's also, whatever it is that you want to say, as long as it's emes, as long as it's true, you'll get to where you need to go to.
When you said the air control, you said that put light in your heart. So if I ask Hashem, what is the right thing? What do you want me to do? And Hashem might tell me.
And you listen. And you listen sincerely. Yes, you will. Hashem will respond. Yes. Okay. Now, there are people who know way more about Hippolyta than I do, but I'm just telling you, this is just giving you a little gleaning of it. So Reb Shlomo goes on and he says, and he brings a teaching from the Ishbasar. I see that Aaron Price has joined. Aaron Price is somewhere in southern Florida. Welcome. And also Ari. Okay. So he says, let's say Moshe likes this girl Chanale very much. And he says, or Sprinzel, Shlomo always used to call the girls Sprinzel. Why Sprinzel? Because there weren't any Sprinzels in the room, Not too many people have that name. Sprint is the Yiddish for Esperanza. Anyway, I think so. I think that's what it is. Sounds like Esperanza. Anyway, but I think also when you say somebody's a Sprinzer, sort of like it's not always so positive. But anyway.
Tevye had a daughter, Sprinzel.
Yeah. So Moshe loves Sprinzel very much. And he says, Sprinzel, I want to marry you. I want you to marry me. And whatever you ask me to do, I'll do. From now until Mashiach comes. When's the last time you heard somebody say that? Never. You waiting for someone to tell you that? Maybe.
After you get married, it's a different story.
Okay, so as Princess says to him, listen, you're a good guy, but I'm not really connected with you too deeply. Even though I know you're a good guy and you'll do everything that I ask you, thank you so much. Lehitraot, goodbye. After a number of weeks, Moshe hears that Sprinzel is getting married. And who's she marrying? Creepy guy. Doesn't do anything that she wants. He does the opposite. So Moshe goes and asks Sprinzel, I don't get you. You don't make any sense. I promised you I would do whatever you want. I would do everything. And you don't want to marry me. And who are you getting married? You're married with this guy that doesn't do anything for you. What happened to you? And her answer is very simple. She says, and Reb Shlomo, she says, I'm just not connected with you. Okay? So Reb Shlomo says, is my connection with Hashem just because I do what He wants me to do? My connection with Hashem is of this. It's a secret of the Torah. So the Ishbitzer says there are secrets of creation, there are secrets of Torah, and then the deepest secrets are the secrets of the souls. Everybody has a personal secret with God, a personal connection with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. So the Ishbitzer says something very deep. He says, secrets of the creation were already known before Moshe Rabbeinu. What Moshe Rabbeinu revealed was the secrets of Torah. Secrets of the souls, only Mashiach knows. Even though in Kabbalah and Chassidus, everything is already hidden there and embedded there, right? Still, the secrets of the souls is something that Mashiach knows. So he goes back to the Ishbitzer and he says, so we're going back to Sprinzler. And I say to Sprinzler, I don't understand. I'm ready to do everything and you don't want to marry me, but you're marrying this guy who doesn't do anything? So obviously she's going to say to him, it's not really my choice. I love him and you, but I don't love you. So now, says Reb Shlomo, I want to ask you the deepest question. So let's say she gets married with Moshe, and Moshe does everything that Sprinzler wants. There's a typo here. So she gets married with this guy, Moshe, the one who normally doesn't do anything for her. Sorry, she marries Moshe. Let's say if she were to marry Moshe, the guy who promised that he would do everything, right? So what would be their connection?
What he does for her.
It's what he does for her, right? But let's say she marries the other guy who doesn't do anything, and then one day, and the one that she's really connected with, right? And then one day he does do what she wants, right? So then that's going to be so much deeper, right? He says, for example, my daughter asks me for some juice. So I give her some juice. But where does that touch me and in my soul, and where does it touch her soul when I give her the juice? It's not the same place where if anybody else would have given her a glass of juice, right? It's because we're so connected that giving her a glass of juice, like mamish, touches souls, right? Okay, so I brought that in. I looked at it last night, and I brought that in this because the title of the section that we're going to read now is you can't evaluate anything other than in the way Hashem sees it. In other words, it could be that there's this guy that mamish, like, hasn't been doing anything that Hashem wants, but his connection could be so deep that when he does do something that Hashem wants, it touches so much more deeply. Okay. So he says like this, "V'inyan ikari b'shlilat hadibur b'signon shel hafchadot v'iyumim." And here's another very important point in what's wrong with speaking to people in a way where, oh, you better do this because if you don't do this, you're going to be shish kebab in hell, right? And especially if you're going to talk to somebody and you're going to tell them all these scary things. She'ein lachzor aleihem b'dibur, we shouldn't even mention these things in words, mishum hatzivui hamefurash b'toratenu, because of this clear instruction in our Torah which says, Al tiftach pe la Satan. Don't open the mouth for the Satan. You ever hear that expression? Don't open, don't speak negatively, because if you're saying something negatively, you're opening, let's say if somebody says to somebody, if you do this and chas v'sholem, such and such a thing is going to happen to you. Just saying that is also opening up the word, the mouth of the Satan. Like, for example, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, during the years that the Arabs were doing what they call the inti, without finishing the word, the Rebbe wouldn't use that word. Because by using that word, he said you were giving koyach, you were giving them koyach. You were giving the Satan koyach. Okay? So, נוסף על האמור לעיל בנוגע להפך התועלת בקירוב ליבם של ישראל אביהם שבשמיים, in addition to what we said before, that speaking negatively has the opposite effect. It has a negative effect in bringing people closer to their Father in heaven. He says, besides that, שזהו הפך האמת על פי תורת האמת. Speaking negatively is the opposite of the truth. הפך כבודו של הקדוש ברוך הוא והפך כבודן של ישראל. It's the opposite of respect and honor for Hashem, and it's the opposite of respect and honor for the Jews. הפך האמת, why is it the opposite of the truth? פסק דין מפורש ברמב"ם. It's a clear psak halachic. It's a clear halachic decision in the Rambam. Sheshikul zeh, this weighing of cheshbon havonot v'zchiyot, the weighing of calculating the transgressions and the merits of a person, eino lefi minyan havonot v'zchiyot ela lefi godlam. When Hashem is weighing somebody's merits or somebody's non-merits, he's not weighing them or calculating them by, you did so many mitzvahs, you did so many averos, and that's how it adds up. No, that's not how Hashem does that. Yesh zechut shu keneged kama, but rather ela lefi godlam. What Hashem is measuring is the value of each mitzvah, the value of each transgression. Yesh zchut shehu keneged kama avonot. Sometimes a yid does one little mitzvah, and it can outweigh a whole bunch of transgressions. Ve'ein shoklin ela b'dato shel kel deyot. The measurement, the weighing is then according only by the consciousness, the awareness of Hashem, who knows everybody's thoughts. And Hashem knows how to evaluate the merits as compared to the transgressions. And as far as what we're talking about, since the Yidden in our days, in our times, who are not fulfilling Torah and mitzvahs, they're in the category of Tinnik Shenishba, a child who was raised in captivity, and he's considered like an onus. He's considered it was like forced on him to be not to be able to do Torah and mitzvahs. Harei onus chachmana patre. The halacha is that an onus, somebody who circumstances forced him to do something, the Torah considers him, does not hold him responsible. Uliidach, and then on the other side, kasher otam tinokot shenishbu. When those Yidden who are tinokot shenishbu, children raised in captivity, mekayimim afilu mitzvah achad bilvad, they do even one mitzvah, Malachas kama v'kama, and all the more so kama mitzvot, if they do a number of mitzvot. V'yidu chazal she'ein lecha adam Yisrael shelo yikayem kama v'kama mitzvot. And the rabbis have testified that there is no single Jew who has not done at least a few mitzvahs. So when such a Yid does a mitzvah, that mitzvah that this man has done or that this woman has done is extremely important in Hashem's eyes. There's this Lubavitcher Chassid in Montreal, Dr. James Brower. He's a brain researcher at McGill University. Brilliant man, Harvard trained and so on. And he was telling the story about his father-in-law who lives in some town in the Midwest. Mm-hmm. The Midwest is sort of like you said, the Bible Belt or whatever it is in any case. And so Dr. Brower's wife is a Balas Tshuva, and they went to visit her father, and they were encouraging him to do a mitzvah, right? He said he's a fine man, was raised without any Jewish education, without anything. And they visited him, and then they left him with a mezuzah, which she initially put up on the inside of the door. He was afraid to do it. And a couple of weeks later, he let them know that he actually put the mezuzah in the right place on the outside of the door at the entrance. He says, you and I might think that that's a little thing, right? But you know what it means for a Jew in a hick town like that, and it's like putting the mezuzah on the outside is like screaming out loud to the whole town, hey, I'm a Jew. I am a Jew, Says, do you have any idea what it takes for somebody like that to do something like that? Somebody who all his life was like, honest and hiding his Yiddishkeit and so on, or whatever connection he had to being Jewish, right? The story that Reb Shlomo, whenever he would meet people, he'd sort of ask them for their phone number. So he met this Jewish guy on the plane. His name is Smith. And he lost the phone number, but he promised the guy that he was going to call him. Mm-hmm. And he remembered that his first name began with an A. So you ever look in the phone book? How many A. Smiths there are?
More than one.
Huh?
A lot more than one.
A lot more than one. So he started dialing the first A. Smith, the second A. Smith, and so on. Anyway, this guy picks up the phone and he says, Reb Shlomo says to him, hi, Mr. Smith, this is Rabbi Carlebach. Are you Jewish? And he says, no, Protestant. Now Shlomo already smelled something. He says, and what about your father? He says, my father also Protestant. And what about your grandfather? My grandfather, Olav Shalom, also Protestant. My grandfather, it's not there. It's my grandfather, Olav Shalom, also Protestant, And, he obviously didn't know what Olav Shalom meant, but, he just knew that they would speak about Grandpa Olav Shalom. Anyway, so you can't say, oh, look at that fellow, he's never kept Shabbos, he's never done this, he's never learned the word of Torah, and so on. What do you know? You never know, right? Reb Shlomo's one of his often repeated little sayings was, you'll never know, right? And like one of the famous stories, and by the way, if you go on YouTube and just type in Shlomo Carlebach stories, there's most of the stories that were recorded are now on YouTube. they're great. It's really worthwhile. So he tells the story about this holy tailor and who all his life, hardly did anything in as far as his religious practice, right? And he passed away, and people weren't even interested in going to the Levaya. But when the Rebbe heard about it, he says, "I'm going to the Levaya and I'm going to eulogize him." And at the eulogy, this tzaddik is talking about what a great man this was, and so on and so on. And then afterwards, one of his friends asks him, between you and me, you were really portraying him, it's like a big tzaddik, but between you and me, we know they didn't do very much. Why were you talking like that? But you know that in a eulogy, if you say things about the neshama, that if you embellish on what this person did and things like that, it's very painful for the neshama. The neshama is there listening to the eulogy, and it's not at all a gift to the neshama to say, "Oh, this man was such a good Baal Tzedakah." If he wasn't, don't say anything. Don't say anything that's painful for the neshama to hear something negative, something not true. Anyway, so his friend asked him, why did you talk like that? So he says, you remember that this tailor was marrying off an orphan that was an apprentice of his, and he gives this orphan became a chassan, and he, being that he was his apprentice, he's marrying him off, and he gives him as a gift, he gives him a talus, an old tattered talus, and the chassan says to him, he says, I can't get married in this talus. Everyone's going to laugh at me. Every chassan gets a new talus, And the tailor says, but you know how poor I am. I don't have money for a new talus. And the chassan says, well, I can't get married in this. And the tailor went ahead and took whatever possessions he had left and pawned them so that he can buy this boy a new talus. So the tzaddik said that I saw by the funeral, I saw that Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov were mamish coming and honoring him, and that he was wrapped in this new talus. What he went through to get this orphan boy a new talus was an enormous effort, right? So what the Rambam is saying is that, and this is based on the Gemara, we can't with our eyes, we can't evaluate the value of what a person is doing. Only Hashem could do that, right? So you might see somebody, he's sitting and learning, and he's this, and he's that, and he's that. And another guy comes into the Beis Medrash for 2 minutes, opens up a sefer and learns for 2 minutes and leaves. And you think, he learned for 2 minutes. What's the big deal? You don't know. You don't know what it took for him to go into the Beis Medrash for those 2 minutes. Do me a favor, can you give me the control for the air conditioner? You see it?
Yeah.
You don't know what it took for this man to do. Thank you. Just a little bit. For a minute, we'll stop it. You don't know what it took for this man to come in for 2 minutes, right? You know, Reb Shlomo once said, Max comes into shul once a year on Yom Kippur for 10 minutes. So he says, everybody in shul is like looking around and say, Max is here for his annual 10-minute visit. He says, that's here in this world. But in Shemayim, all the angels say, wow, Max is here. Let's hear what he's got to say.
You said it before, and it's most comforting. It's most comforting for me.
Yeah. It's an Azoi Isis. Right? And that's the whole point over here. Who are you to make these opinions and these evaluations about this one, about that one? Shalom. Okay. Right? You have no right to do that, because you don't know what it took for this person. You know.
We don't know ourselves either.
And you don't know yourselves either. That's right.
What we think is a Kleinigkeit can be earth-shattering.
Right. So the best thing is don't.
My mother used to say, think twice and don't say it.
That's a good one. Remember that.
I didn't start listening to it until I was in my 60s.
I told you, you're a young man.
Better late than never.
Okay, so the odd page Reish Tzadik Aleph. Everybody's here? Yeah. The odd V'gam Ze Ikar, Vav Gimel Zayin stands for V'gam Ze. You're going to remember that, Shaya? V'gam Ze. Okay. V'gam Ze Ikar, and this is also an essential point. Dafke b'dorenu Ze, Dafke in our generation. גדולה ביותר התעוררות של אותם תינוקות שנשבו לשוב לדרך התורה והמצוות. דווקא in our generation, there's a great awakening among these children who grew up in captivity. There's a great awakening amongst them to return to the way of Torah and mitzvahs. עד כדי כך, so much so שעשרות אלפי יהודים התקרבו ונעשו שומרי תורה ומצוות בפועל ממש. So much so that tens of thousands of Jews have come close and have become shomer Torah and mitzvahs בפועל ממש keeping Torah and mitzvahs. ומוסיף והולך ביתר שאת וביתר עז. And this is continuing and the numbers are growing. ומי הוא זה ואיזה הוא, and who is this person? Who does he think he is? Asher yimalo libo lishkol b'da'ato, who has the hardiness in his heart to, and he thinks that he is capable of evaluating. Dad basar vadam. All he has is the consciousness of a human being. Cheshbon ha'avonot. Who does he think he is that he's going to make a calculation of, how many sins this person did and how many sins this person did? Not only that, אלא להעלות על דל שפתיו, שבגלל שבדורנו זה ישנם כמה וכמה מישראל שלעת עתם אינם מקיימים תורה ומצוות. And not only that, but he even brings it out on his lips, that he makes statements like that, because in our generation there are so many Yidden that at the moment are not keeping Torah and mitzvahs. And therefore, Yavo Onshim Hachim Avilim, therefore the most frightening retributions are going to come down. Rachmanal Litzlan. And like I said, I still don't know what Hey Yud Lamed Tav stands for. May Hashem protect us. This is Hefech Da'ato Shel Kel Deot. This is the opposite of God's consciousness. HaMeforeshet BaTorah, in the Torah it says clearly, Sheyehudim Eile, that these Jews who grew up in this kind of physical or spiritual captivity, right? Dinam, the Torah law is that they are ketinok shenishba. They are like a child who was raised in captivity. Shehuka anus, he's considered as anus, as forced. He has, as if he had no choice. Sherachmanat patrei, the Torah exonerates him from all retribution. Okay, so how dare you make any calculations and make any statements? Oh, this guy is not religious. This guy is this. Maybe they're not, but don't evaluate them. Don't say, since he's, because he's not doing this, because he's not doing that, therefore such and such might happen to him. Chas v'sholem, Rahman of Islam. What do you know? This guy might be closer to God than you are. Right?
It's like that Hashem of Torah, where Hashem goes, he travels for Shabbos to this Chassidim into this faraway place, and he's going to see the person who's going to be sitting next to him in Shrine, and it's this man who has a child. All he remembers is Shabbos, but he doesn't know what Shabbos means. So as an adult, there was the biggest and most extravagant party, L'chol Shabbos Kodesh, and Hashem
with a rock band.
Exactly.
Right.
And Hashem doesn't tell him how to keep Shabbos because he realizes the second he tells him how to keep Shabbos, it's going to take away any love that he has for Shabbos or his capability.
When he's not ready for it, like there was a Yid who would come to the Lubavitch Rebbe on Shabbos for brain games. He'd come by car, and the Rebbe knew about it. And the Rebbe never said anything to him. And then one Shabbos he comes over to the Rebbe to say l'chaim, and then the Rebbe said to him, "Okay, give me your car keys." But in other words, until he was ready, the Rebbe didn't say to him anything, because if he would have said it a week earlier, it would have had the opposite effect. He knew when to say it, but if the person is not ready, leave them alone. Don't evaluate. Look at yourself. Watch your own mitzvahs. Don't watch somebody else's mitzvahs.
First beautify yourself before you beautify somebody else.
I lost my makeup kit.
Du bist nicht schein.
Du bist nicht schein. Bei mir bist du schein.
Du hast nicht sein. Yes, there's a song like that. We're in the same generation.
Yeah. Right?
We can also apply this to the individual. Circumstances may have made us the way we are.
Right.
And we don't judge even ourselves.
Don't judge yourself because you're not objective, that's for sure. But besides that, on the other hand, we have to be careful, not to fool ourselves.
I want to say that too. You can fool the whole world, but don't fool yourself.
Right? No, there's another aphorism. You can fool yourself, but you can't fool the world. But it's easy to fool myself. It's very easy, So one Rebbe once said, so if you fool yourself, so then obviously you're a fool. So what's the big deal that you fool the fool?
I haven't heard that one before.
You fooled yourself, so you fooled the fool. Right? So what you have nothing to show off about. Did you notice that it was colder today than yesterday?
We're outside?
Outside, yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't use the term colder outside.
Wait till tonight.
Trying to be positive.
Wait till tonight. It'll be much, much cooler.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's a show.
Much.
Anyway, okay, so you get the point. Like, let's sort of just review a little bit of this, because the next lesson's on Thursday in Yus Hashem, and Yus Hashem Esther will be here too.
Oh man. Right.
And but you're still in town this Shabbos, yeah?
Until Monday.
Until you extend your ticket, right?
Tomorrow
Until Mashiach comes.
Tomorrow is Yehuda's Goshevsky and
is
Rabbi
your class is on the Parsha, not
That's at
in
night.
evening.
Tomorrow night, yeah. But Rabbi Fink is teaches during this time tomorrow,
Right.
11:10, yeah. I mean, actually, he finishes at 12:30. Then I go with him to the yeshiva. Okay, so the points that the Rebbe has been making is we have to be so careful not to talk against Yidden. It's totally against Hashem's honor. And you know the mitzvah of Chilul Hashem and Kiddush Hashem. The fact is that everybody, like I told you, I read that there's 200 foreign journalists covering the Middle East. 195 of them are in Israel. 5 of them are in the other Arab countries.
Talking about Israel.
It's covering the Middle East, right?
Right.
So there's 195 foreign journalists, like, with their eyes glued on everything that Israel does, you know? And they only have 5 working in the other countries, you know? Because everybody's watching, what are the Jews doing? What are the Jews doing? And if you're a religious Jew, they watch you even more. Because like, you know, if a religious Jew did something that's not al pi Torah, so then it becomes like a whole party for them, you know, like, you see, they're also fakers, and they don't, you know, it's just a show, and so on and so on. So we have to be very, very careful with the union of Chilul Hashem and Kiddush Hashem. And you know, we have to be very careful. You see a Yid doing something that's not right, don't talk about it. You see Yidden who are not Shemer Torah mitzvahs, don't say anything negative. You know, who knows if I would have been born in those circumstances, who knows how many banks I would be robbing every day? You know, what do I know? You're not bad. You're not. Don't judge the other person until you're in their shoes. And if you want to bring them, if you want to connect with them, if you want them to be connected, so bring them closer to Torah and mitzvahs. The Rebbe, you know, when Yidden would come, like, you know, and by the dollars or whatever, and the Rebbe would ask somebody, "What do you do?" And if it was somebody who was working in one of these kiruv organizations, so the term that they use is kiruv rechokim, bringing those who are far away, bringing them back close to home. And the Rebbe would tell them, there is no such thing as a Yid who is far away. You can bring them to Torah and mitzvahs, but kiruv rechokim, how dare you say that a Yid is far? A Yid is a Yid is a Yid. And that's what we were learning, that there's an nekudah in the neshama of a Yid that is no different than by you or by you or by you or by the biggest Rav or Tzaddik. At the essence, we all have that protected essence neshama that nothing can destroy it. I told you the story a few weeks ago, I believe, but it's worth saying it again. I have a friend here, I don't see him too often. Very smart guy, works for a think tank. And so he told me the story when he was sitting shiva for his mother. And his mother was a Jewish woman who came from Russia. And they lived in Queens or whatever it is, one of those places, you know. And there are some hick towns over there too, even though it's in the state of New York. And he said, I think he was like maybe the only Jew in his high school, and he had a friend that he would visit, and this friend's father had a Nazi flag draped on the wall in the living room. And his mother really didn't give him anything about Yiddishkeit. You know, there was no kosher food in the home. There was no Shabbos. There was no Yom Tov. She was a single mother on top of that. And when he became like 17, 18, 19, he went on a spiritual quest and he went to India. And he's a very brilliant guy. He learned Sanskrit. He became a teacher in these things and so on and so on. And one day he comes home and his mother says to him, I don't understand you. What are you going looking at other religions for? Isn't it enough for you to know that you're a Jew? And he looks at her and he says, but you didn't give me anything in my Judaism. And she says, isn't it enough that you know that you're a Jew? And he said, until he was sitting Shiva for her years later, he told me the story while he was sitting Shiva. He didn't get it. She was connected with that nikuda of her being a Jew. So she was one of those tinik shenishbar, you know, one of those children that was raised in captivity, like, you know, in Soviet Russia and so on. But she knew that she is a Jew. She was connected to that nikuda. On the other hand, you can have a lot of religious people who are raised and they're taught Torah and they're taught to do mitzvahs and have never connected with that etzem nikuda of their neshama. Right? So, who are we to make any judgments? The answer is we're not, and we have no right to make any judgments. So we should all be blessed to see good things and see the good in each other.
Amen.
Okay, hope to see you, Mr. Hashem, maybe tomorrow night if you can come, or else Thursday we'll continue with this. Okay. So I need the sheets back so we can have them.